I never thought my life would shatter over something as simple as a forgotten envelope in the back of our desk drawer. I'm Emily, 35 years old, and for the past 10 years, I've been married to Mark, pouring everything into our family. I've worked extra shifts at the hospital as a nurse, skipping vacations and cutting corners on little luxuries, all to build up our savings account for our 2 kids' college funds and maybe a dream house. Someday. It's been tough, balancing the kids' school runs, Mark's late nights at his accounting job, and keeping the house running smooth. But I did it because I believed in us. That belief crumbled the day I was cleaning out the home office, looking for some old tax papers, and I pulled out that envelope with the bank logo on it. Welcome to Martha's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you, right now. I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this. My hands shook a little as I opened it, not expecting much. But there it was. A statement from our joint savings account showing withdrawals I didn't recognize. Big ones, too, like $5,000 here, $3,000 there over the last 6 months, totaling almost 20 grand. I stared at the numbers, my heart pounding, because I hadn't touched that money. We'd agreed to save it religiously, and Mark handled most of the banking, saying he was better with numbers. I sat there on the floor, papers scattered around me, trying to make sense of it. Was there identity theft? Some mistake? I grabbed my phone to call the bank, but then I heard voices from the living room. Mark was on a call, his voice low and tense. I crept closer to the door, not wanting to interrupt, but curious because he sounded agitated. Mom, I can't keep doing this," he was saying, his tone hushed like he didn't want me to hear. "The withdrawals are adding up, and Emily might notice soon. We need to find another way to support the boy without dipping into our savings again." My blood ran cold at those words. "The boy? What boy?" I pressed my ear against the door, holding my breath. His mother, Linda, my mother-in-law, replied through the speakerphone, her voice sharp as always. "Mark, don't be ridiculous. That's your son we're talking about. I've been raising him quietly with your aunt for years now, and those funds are necessary. School fees, clothes, food, it all costs money. You owe it to him after that mess you got into." I felt like the room was spinning. Mark has a secret child? From some affair? My mind raced back to those early years in our marriage, when he traveled a lot for work, and there were times he seemed distant, but I chalked it up to stress. Now it all clicked in the worst way. I clutched the bank statement tighter, tears blurring the ink as Linda continued. "Besides, Emily doesn't need to know that savings is family money, and this is family business. Just transfer another $2,000 by the end of the week. I've got bills piling up here." Mark sighed heavily. "Fine, Mom, but this has to stop soon. I feel guilty enough hiding it from her." Guilty? That's all he felt? I wanted to burst in there, scream at him, demand answers, but my legs wouldn't move. The betrayal hit me like a truck. All those sacrifices I'd made, working overtime while pregnant, skipping date nights to budget better, now funneled to some hidden kid I never knew about. I slid down the wall, sitting on the carpet, my chest tight with pain. How long had this been going on? And Linda? Oh, that woman had always treated me like an outsider, criticizing my cooking, my parenting, everything. Now I saw why. She was protecting her son's dirty secret, using our hard-earned money to do it. I wiped my eyes, staring at the statement again. Seeing the dates line up with times Mark said he was helping his mom with emergencies. Lies, all of it. The kids were napping upstairs, oblivious, and here I was, unraveling in silence. Part of me wanted to confront him right then, but the shock pinned me in place. Who was this child? How old? And why steal from us to raise him? As Mark ended the call, I heard him mutter to himself, "God, what a mess." He started walking toward the office, and I scrambled to stuff the envelope back in the drawer, pretending I was just organizing. He poked his head in, smiling like nothing was wrong. "Hey, babe, what are you up to?" I forced a smile back, my voice steady even though my heart was breaking. "Just cleaning up some old papers. Found some receipts we might need." He nodded, casual as ever. "Cool. Mom called about some family stuff, nothing big." Nothing big? It took everything not to slap him. Instead, I said, "Oh, everything okay with her?" He shrugged. "Yeah, she's fine. Always something with her, you know?" I nodded, biting my tongue, but inside, the humiliation burned. I'd been the fool, the devoted wife building a future while they siphoned it away. That night, as we sat at dinner with the kids, Mark chatting about his day, I could barely eat. The secret hung in the air like poison. Linda texted him. I saw the notification pop up on his phone. "Don't forget the transfer." He glanced at it and put the phone face down. "Work stuff," he said when I raised an eyebrow. I smiled weakly. Sure. But in my head, I was screaming. How could he do this? And Linda, that meddling witch, stealing our savings like it was hers. I'd endured her snide comments at holidays, her advice that always felt like jabs, all while she hid this bomb. The pain of it all, the deception, the financial betrayal made me feel so small, so used. I'd given up promotions at work to be home more, trusted him completely. And this was my reward? A secret family draining our dreams. By bedtime, as Mark snored beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The bank statement was burned into my memory. I slipped out of bed, grabbed my laptop from the nightstand, and quietly logged into our online banking. There they were, more transfers, labeled as family aid. My fingers trembled on the keys. I thought about all the times I'd said no to new clothes for myself, saving every penny, while they spent it on his hidden son. The injustice of it boiled up, making my eyes sting again. But I didn't cry. Not yet. This was just the beginning of the nightmare, and I knew I had to hold it together. For now. The next morning, I woke up with a headache that felt like a hammer pounding inside my skull. The kind that comes from crying silently into your pillow half the night. I stared at the ceiling for a few minutes, replaying that overheard phone call in my head. The words, "the boy," echoing like a bad dream I couldn't shake. Mark was already up, humming in the kitchen as he made coffee, acting like everything was normal. But I could barely look at him without feeling this knot of anger twisting in my stomach. I pulled on my robe and headed downstairs, the kids still asleep upstairs, giving me a little time before the chaos of breakfast started. As I walked into the kitchen, Mark turned and smiled at me, holding out a mug. "Morning, babe. You look like you didn't sleep well. Rough night?" I took the coffee, forcing myself to nod casually, even though my hands wanted to shake. "Yeah, just one of those nights." Tossed and turned a bit. He leaned against the counter, sipping his own cup, and I could see his phone on the table, the screen lighting up with a text notification. I glanced at it quickly. It was from Linda, of course. "Mom's coming over later," he said, picking up the phone and reading the message. "She needs to talk about some stuff, probably her health insurance or something. You know how she gets with those bills." I felt my pulse quicken at the mention of her name, remembering how she'd demanded more money on that call, like it was nothing. I set my mug down a little too hard, the clink echoing in the quiet kitchen. What kind of stuff? We just helped her last month with that emergency repair on her roof. Mark shrugged, avoiding my eyes as he scrolled through his phone. "It's nothing big, Em. She's getting older and things come up. She mentioned needing help with some family expenses." Family expenses? I wanted to laugh bitterly, but I bit it back, thinking about that secret child she was raising. Instead, I crossed my arms and leaned against the fridge. We've been dipping into our savings a lot lately. I saw some withdrawals on the statement yesterday. "What's going on with that?" He paused, finally looking up at me, his face tightening just a fraction. "Oh, that? Yeah, I handled a few things for Mom. It's all good. We're fine financially." I opened my mouth to push harder, but the kids came bounding down the stairs right then, shouting about cartoons and cereal, breaking the tension for a moment. I busied myself pouring bowls of Cheerios for them, my mind racing as Mark helped set the table. The anger was starting to simmer inside me, not full boil yet, but definitely heating up. How could he lie so easily? We'd built that savings together, me picking up extra nursing shifts on weekends, him claiming overtime at his accounting firm. It was supposed to be for our family, our kids, not some hidden son from his past mistake. As we ate breakfast, the conversation stayed light, all about school projects and weekend plans. But I kept stealing glances at Mark, wondering how long he'd been playing this game. After the kids finished and ran off to get dressed, he cleared the plates and turned to me. "Listen, about the money, Mom's really struggling. She asked if we could transfer a bit more this week, just $2,000 to cover some urgent bills." I froze with my spoon halfway to my mouth, the yogurt suddenly tasting sour. $2,000? Mark, that's not pocket change. Our savings are for the kids' future, not endless emergencies. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, looking frustrated like I was the one being unreasonable. "Come on, Em, she's family. My mom raised me alone after Dad left. You know that. We owe her. It's not like we're broke." I felt that seed of anger take root deeper, spreading through me as he framed it like helping an aging parent, hiding the real reason behind it. I wanted to scream about the boy, about the affair, but the words stuck in my throat. I was still too stunned, too hurt to blow it all up right then. Instead, I nodded slowly. Fine, but we need to talk about budgeting this better. I don't like seeing our account drain like this. He smiled, relieved, and pulled out his laptop from his bag, logging into the online banking right there at the table. Great, I'll set it up now. Just need you to approve the transfer since it's joint. My heart pounded as I watched him type, the screen showing the balance, already lower than it should be from those secret withdrawals. He slid the laptop over to me. Here, sign off on it. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the confirm button, feeling like I was signing away more than just money. This was them stealing from us, from our life, to fund his lie. But I clicked it, playing along for now, even as the betrayal chipped away at the security I'd always felt in our marriage. Okay, done, I said, my voice flat. He closed the laptop and kissed my cheek. Thanks, babe. You're the best. A couple hours later, the doorbell rang and there was Linda, striding in like she owned the place. Her purse clutched tight and her face set in that familiar, stern expression. She hugged Mark first, then gave me a quick nod. Emily, good to see you. Kids at school? I forced a smile as we sat in the living room, her on the couch across from me. Yeah, dropped them off. Mark said you needed to talk about some expenses. She nodded, pulling out a stack of papers from her purse, bills, receipts, all looking official. Yes, dear. I've had some unexpected costs lately. Doctor visits, home repairs. You know how it is at my age. Mark jumped in, sitting next to her. We already transferred the money, Mom. Should hit your account soon. She patted his hand. Good boy. But I might need a bit more next month. These things add up. I sat there listening to her list off these so-called emergencies, my hands clenched in my lap. Every word felt like a lie. Knowing it was all going to that secret grandson she was hiding with some aunt, the overbearing way she demanded it, like it was her right, made my blood pressure rise. Linda, we've been helping a lot. Maybe we can look at other options, like budgeting apps or something. She waved a hand dismissively. Nonsense. Family takes care of family. Mark understands that. He nodded along, pressuring me with his eyes to drop it. It's fine. We'll make it work. I felt isolated right there in my own home. The two of them teaming up against me without even knowing I knew their secret. The anger grew, but I held back, nodding again. All right, if you say so. As she kept talking, detailing more needs, I excused myself to the kitchen for water, needing a moment to breathe. Leaning against the sink, I stared out the window, feeling our family unity crack a little more. This wasn't just about money anymore, it was the lies, the hidden life, eroding everything I'd built. I heard them laughing in the living room, like nothing was wrong, and it stung. When I came back, Linda was standing to leave, hugging Mark again. Thanks for understanding, son. And Emily, don't worry so much about the finances. Mark's got it handled. She gave me a patronizing smile, and I returned it weakly. Sure, Linda. After she left, Mark turned to me with a sigh. See, it wasn't a big deal. I wanted to confront him then, spill everything I'd heard, but the shock still held me back. Yeah, not a big deal, I echoed. But inside, the seed of retaliation was planting itself firm. I wouldn't let them keep taking from us like this, not without a fight, even if it started quiet. A few days after that awkward breakfast where I grudgingly approved the $2,000 transfer, I was still reeling inside, checking the bank app obsessively on my phone whenever Mark wasn't around. The balance had dipped again with a couple of small amounts he must have moved quietly, always labeled as something innocent like family support. I hadn't confronted him yet because I needed more than just the overheard call and that statement. I wanted undeniable proof before I risked everything blowing up in my face. That afternoon, I got home from my nursing shift a bit early. The house empty and peaceful for once since the kids were at soccer practice and Mark was still, crunching numbers at his firm. I poured myself a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table, trying to steady my nerves, when the doorbell rang sharply, like someone was jabbing it with impatience. I opened the door to find Linda standing there, her face flushed and her eyes narrowed, not even bothering with a hello as she pushed past me into the hallway. Emily, we need to talk right now about those finances, she said, her voice clipped and demanding. Like I was some employee she'd come to reprimand. I closed the door behind her, already feeling my stomach tighten. Linda, this is unexpected. What's going on? She marched straight to the living room and sat on the couch, crossing her arms tightly. Unexpected? I've been dealing with emergencies that don't wait for invitations. The money from the other day isn't cutting it. Bills are piling up faster than I thought. And I need more transferred today. Tell Mark to handle it immediately. I stood there in the doorway, my water glass still in hand, trying to keep my voice calm even as her entitlement grated on me. More money? We just sent $2,000 a few days ago. What's so urgent that it can't wait until Mark gets home? Linda leaned forward, her expression turning scornful like I was being deliberately obtuse. Urgent? Everything's urgent when you're dealing with family needs, Emily. Doctor appointments, unexpected repairs. It's not your place to interrogate me. You've always been so suspicious about the finances, like we're out to rob you blind. If you trusted us, you'd see it's all necessary. Her words stung, belittling me right there in my own home, making me feel small and unreasonable for daring to ask questions. I set the glass down on the coffee table a bit harder than I meant to, the clink echoing in the tense silence. I'm not suspicious without reason, Linda. I've seen the bank statements. Those withdrawals add up, and they're not just minor, like Mark says. Our savings are for the kids' future, not whatever this is. She waved her hand dismissively, her voice rising with irritation. Paranoid, that's what you are. Always nagging about every penny. Mark told me you've been hounding him over this, acting like the family's falling apart over a few transfers. You're ungrateful, Emily. I've sacrificed plenty for this family, raising Mark on my own. And now you're treating me like a thief? The verbal attack hit me like a wave, her accusations twisting everything to make me the villain. And I felt the gaslighting sink in, doubting myself for a second even though I knew the truth about the secret boy. Before I could respond, Linda pulled out her phone and dialed Mark, putting it on speaker without asking. It rang twice before he answered, sounding distracted amid background office noise. Mom? Hey, I'm in a meeting soon. What's up? Linda jumped right in, her tone shifting to wounded innocence. Mark, your wife's at it again, questioning every little thing about the money. I came over because we need another transfer, $3,000 this time, for those pressing bills I mentioned. But Emily's refusing to cooperate, acting like it's her money alone. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but Mark cut in first, his voice firm and exasperated. Em, you there? Come on, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Mom's right, it's family stuff, and the withdrawals are minor in the grand scheme. We'll rebuild the savings. It's not like we're broke. I grabbed the edge of the couch to steady myself, feeling the isolation creep in as he dismissed my concerns so easily, siding with her without even hearing my side fully. Mark, this isn't minor, our account's draining, and I deserve to know why. We agreed that money was sacred. He sighed heavily over the line, like I was the one causing the problem. Babe, trust me on this. Mom needs help, and questioning her isn't helping anyone. Just let it go, I'll handle the transfer from here remotely. I've got the app on my phone. It'll be done in a minute. Linda nodded smugly, watching me as Mark tapped away on his end, the phone beeping with notifications. There, sent, he said after a pause. $3,000 to Mom's account. Happy now? Em, we'll talk later. Gotta run. Love you. He hung up, leaving the room heavy with silence, and Linda stood up, smoothing her skirt like she'd won a battle. See? Mark gets it. You should learn to listen more and complain less. This family's been through enough without your drama. Her parting shot deepened the humiliation, making me feel powerless and sidelined in my own marriage, like an outsider they were tolerating. I followed her to the door, my cheeks burning, but I managed a tight nod. Fine, Linda, drive safe. She left without another word, the door clicking shut behind her, and I sank onto the couch. Pulling up the bank app on my phone to confirm, the balance had dropped by another $3,000, all because Mark had caved to her pressure from afar. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the screen, the reality of the deception hitting harder than before. This wasn't just occasional help, it was a systematic drain, with Mark enabling it every step, hiding the secret child behind vague excuses. The way he'd dismissed me, downplaying it all as minor, made the isolation feel complete. No one on my side, no backup. Tears pricked my eyes, but I wiped them away, the humiliation fueling something new inside me. The conflict had escalated beyond what I imagined, eroding every bit of security I'd built. But in that low moment, a quiet resolve started forming. I couldn't keep pretending forever. I had to uncover more, dig deeper into their lies, before they bled us dry. That evening, when Mark got home, he acted normal. pecking my cheek and asking about dinner like nothing happened. "Mom sort things out?" he said casually, hanging his jacket. I forced a smile, swallowing the hurt. Yeah, she did. But inside the pain sharpened my focus. I knew now the deception ran deeper. And I wouldn't let it destroy me without a fight, even if it stayed hidden for now. The morning after that gut-wrenching call where Mark transferred another $3,000, right in front of me over the phone, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, my head throbbing from the stress that had kept me tossing all night. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, habit pulling me to check the bank app again, even though I knew it would just make the knot in my stomach tighter. When I tried to log in, the screen flashed an error. Invalid credentials. I blinked, thinking maybe I'd fat-fingered the password in my half-awake state, so I typed it slower, double-checking each character, but it bounced back the same way. My heart started pounding as I sat up in bed, the sheets tangling around me, and I grabbed the laptop from the desk to try from there. Same issue, access denied. Mark was already downstairs. I could hear him clattering around in the kitchen, so I pulled on my robe and headed down, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mark, something's wrong with the savings account login. It won't let me in." He looked up from pouring coffee, handing me a mug with that casual smile he always wore when he wanted to downplay things. "Oh yeah, I updated the security settings last night. The bank flagged some activity, so I changed the passwords and tightened up access. It's just temporary management. I'll sort it out." I stared at him, the mug hot in my hands, feeling a chill run down my spine despite the warmth. "Temporary? I need to see the balance, Mark. We have bills coming up, and I contribute to that account, too." He shrugged, turning back to the eggs on the stove. Don't worry. I'll handle everything for now. You've been so stressed about the transfers to Mom, and this way, it's secure. Just focus on work and the kids." His words felt like a slap, minimizing my concerns as if I was the one overreacting. But I could see the shift in his eyes, from dismissive to something more controlling, like he was drawing a line I couldn't cross. I didn't push it right then because the kids came tumbling down the stairs, demanding breakfast and chatting about their day. So I plastered on a smile and helped set the table. After we got them off to school, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, calling the bank directly while Mark was in the shower. The representative answered after a short hold, and I explained the situation, giving my details as a shared user on the account. She typed away for a moment, then said politely, "Ma'am, I see here that the primary account holder, Mark, has updated the security credentials and revoked secondary access privileges. Since he's listed as the main owner, you'll need his authorization to reinstate your login." I gripped the phone tighter, my voice dropping. "But I've had access for years. We built that savings together for our family." She sounded sympathetic but firm. "I understand, but legally, as the primary holder, he has the right to manage access. You can discuss it with him or visit a branch together to adjust." The call ended, and I sat there stunned, realizing I was truly locked out. No easy override. No quick fix without begging Mark, who was clearly pulling the strings now. By midday, the reality hit harder when I tried to pay the electric bill from our joint checking account, which I still had access to. The payment bounced, insufficient funds, and when I checked the balance, it was dangerously low, overdrawn by a couple hundred from automatic withdrawals I'd forgotten about. I texted Mark at work. "Checking account overdrawn, can't pay bills. What's going on?" His reply came back after a tense half hour. "Moved some funds to savings for Mom's emergencies. Use the credit card for now. I'll transfer back later." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking, feeling financially stranded in my own home, unable to cover even groceries without racking up debt or asking him like a child for allowance. The shame burned through me, knowing all those nursing shifts I'd worked, the overtime I'd pulled while pregnant, had gone into that savings, only for him to control it now and funnel it to his secret son. I wanted to scream, but the gaslighting had me second-guessing. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe this was just temporary, like he said, but deep down, the shock kept me frozen, terrified that confronting him would shatter our family before I had proof to stand on. That afternoon, Linda called, her voice booming through the speaker when I answered. "Emily, I hear there's been some fuss about the money again. Mark told me you tried logging in. Why are you poking around so much?" I paced the living room, trying to keep calm. "It's our savings, Linda. I have a right to see it." She laughed, that sharp, mocking sound that always made me feel small. "Your savings? Mark set that account up in his name years ago. and you've just been along for the ride. Questioning everything like this makes you look ungrateful, dear. If you trusted your husband, you wouldn't be causing all this drama." Her taunts reinforced my exclusion, painting me as the problem while she and Mark held all the power, and I felt the isolation deepen. No one to turn to without spilling the secret and looking like the crazy one. "I'm not causing drama, I'm trying to keep our family afloat," she snorted. "Afloat? With your nagging? Let Mark handle it, he knows what's best for the family." When Mark got home that evening, he walked in carrying takeout, acting like everything was fine. "Hey babe, got Chinese. Kids will love it." I met him in the kitchen, my voice low so the children wouldn't hear from the playroom. "The bank said you revoked my access because you're the primary holder. How could you do that without telling me?" He set the bags down, his expression hardening, escalating from that morning's dismissal to full control. "It's for security. You've been so on edge about Mom's needs, and I didn't want more arguments. I'll handle the bills and transfers. Trust me, it's temporary." I crossed my arms, feeling the walls close in. "Temporary? The checking's overdrawn, Mark. I can't even buy milk without your permission now." He stepped closer, his tone firm. "I'll fix the checking tonight. Just stop fighting this. It's for the family's good." The gaslighting twisted the knife, making me doubt my own sanity. And the fear of blowing up our life for the kids kept me from pushing harder. As we ate dinner, Linda texted Mark. I saw the notification. "Make sure she doesn't meddle more." He chuckled at it, showing me like it was a joke. "Mom's worried about you stressing." I forced a weak smile, but inside the emotional collapse hit full force, tears pricking my eyes as I cleared the plates. Later, alone in the bathroom, I locked the door and let the sobs come quietly. The shame of being cut off from my own earnings, isolated in my marriage, with no ally to confide in without risking everything. The betrayal had stripped me bare, financially powerless, humiliated by their mockery, and grappling with the loss of the security I'd sacrificed so much for. It felt like rock bottom, the outrage boiling under the surface, but the shock held me there, broken and silent, wondering how much more I could take before something snapped. I stayed in that bathroom longer than I should have after dinner, wiping away the last of the tears and staring at my reflection until the fog on the mirror cleared. The humiliation from Mark's control over the money and Linda's mocking words had left me feeling like a shell. But as I gripped the sink, a quiet anger started to replace the despair. Not the explosive kind, but something controlled, like a plan forming in the back of my mind. I couldn't keep confronting them head on. They'd just gaslight me more and lock me out further. So I decided right then to stop fighting openly and start observing, playing the unaware wife while I figured out how to protect myself and uncover more about where our money was really going. I took a deep breath, smoothed my hair, and walked back into the bedroom where Mark was lounging on the bed, watching TV. "You okay?" he asked, glancing up briefly. "Yeah, just a headache," I lied, sliding under the covers and turning away from him, my mind already shifting to who could help me navigate this without tipping my hand. That night, as Mark snored beside me, I lay awake thinking about Sarah, my old friend from nursing school who'd switched to banking compliance years ago. We hadn't talked much lately, with my life consumed by shifts and kids, but she was smart, discreet, and always gave straight advice without judgment. The next morning, after Mark headed to work and I got the kids on the bus, I poured myself another coffee and dialed her number, my fingers a little shaky as it rang. "Emily, hey, stranger. What's up, everything all right?" Sarah's voice was warm, like no time had passed. "Hey, Sarah. Yeah, mostly, but I need some off-the-record advice about money stuff with Mark. It's getting weird, and I don't know where to start." There was a pause, then she said, "Okay, shoot. What's going on?" I kept it vague at first, not spilling the secret about the boy yet. "He's revoked my access to our savings account, says it's security. But there have been these big transfers to his mom, and I can't see the details anymore. The bank's telling me since he's the primary holder, I need his okay to get back in. Any ideas on how to handle this quietly without making waves?" Sarah sighed, sounding thoughtful. "First off, Em, that sucks. Sounds like classic financial control. Legally, if it's primarily in his name, your options are limited short-term without a court order or agreement. But start by gathering what you already have: old statements, email alerts, transaction histories from before the lockout. Look for patterns in amounts, dates, or recipients that could show if something's off. If you spot red flags like frequent transfers through third-party apps, It might suggest concealment, but you'd need a lawyer to dig deeper. And protect yourself. Open a separate account in your name only. Stash some cash if you can. And document everything. If it escalates, think about consulting a family law attorney quietly. They can advise on marital assets without alerting him. Her words grounded me, turning my anger into focus. Thanks, that makes sense. I've got some old emails, I'll check those. And yeah, a separate account's a good idea. I'll do that today. Well, we chatted a bit more about safer steps, like monitoring credit reports for free. And she warned me again. Move slow, Em. Don't confront until you have solid ground. Rushing could backfire legally or make him hide more. Call me if you need to brainstorm. Hanging up, I felt a spark of agency return. Not triumphant, but cautious. Like I was finally taking a step without them knowing. Inspired by her advice, I opened my laptop in the quiet kitchen, logging into my personal email. The one Mark didn't check much. I searched for bank notifications, scrolling back through months of alerts I'd ignored before. And there it was, a confirmation email from a couple weeks ago that Mark must have forwarded to me. By mistake, or maybe auto-sent to both of us early on. It was a transfer receipt for $1,500, routed through a third-party app like Venmo, labeled simply as family expense, but showing the recipient as an account linked to Linda's sister, the aunt I'd heard mentioned in that overheard call. The date matched one of Linda's emergencies, and the app's routing number looked odd, like it was bounced through multiple steps to obscure the trail. My pulse quickened as I saved the email to a hidden folder. Printing a copy just in case and tucking it into my purse, this was my first tangible clue. Ambiguous enough not to be a smoking gun, but confirming my suspicion that the money wasn't just for Linda's bills, especially with the aunt's involvement. It wasn't labeled anything explicit, but the pattern screamed deliberate hiding, and it fueled my determination to keep digging without them suspecting. I texted Sarah a quick description of what I'd found, keeping it general. Found an old transfer receipt via email, routed through Venmo to a relative's account. Weird path. What do you think? She replied almost immediately. Smart find. Third-party apps like that can mask intent. Look for frequency. If it's regular, it might point to ongoing obligations. But don't assume too much yet. Interpret it as potential irregularity and note the dates. Lawyer could subpoena full records later if needed. Stay cautious. Her interpretation helped me see it clearer. The routing wasn't accidental. It was a way to avoid direct bank trails. And the consistency with other withdrawals I'd seen before the lockout suggested a hidden pattern. I nodded to myself, closing the laptop and starting lunch prep, but inside, the emotional shift was solid. I was done being the victim, committing to play the unaware wife, smiling through interactions while I observed their moves and built more evidence quietly. That afternoon, I opened a small checking account in my name, only at a different bank, transferring a little from my next paycheck, direct deposit, nothing big, just enough to feel secure without alerting Mark. When he got home that evening, I greeted him normally, asking about his day and helping with dinner like everything was fine. Mom texted she might need a bit more help next week, he said casually over the meal. Watching my reaction, I kept my face neutral, stirring the pasta. Oh, what's up this time? He shrugged. Just bills piling up. I'll handle it from the savings. I nodded, saying, okay, if you think it's best, but inwardly, the clue in my purse burned like a secret weapon, reminding me I was no longer powerless. After the kids went to bed, I excused myself to read in the office, actually reviewing more old emails for similar receipts, my quiet determination growing with each one I flagged. Linda called Mark later. I heard him in the living room laughing about something family-related, and I stayed out of it, playing along perfectly. This was my new strategy. Observe, gather, wait. The anger was still there, controlled now, pushing me forward without the despair holding me back. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had a path, even if it was cautious and slow, leading me toward reclaiming what they'd taken. Building on that Venmo receipt I'd found in the old email, I knew I had to keep pushing quietly, piecing together more without raising any flags. The next evening, after the kids were in bed and Mark was out running an errand for work, I sat down at our shared household laptop in the office, the one we both used for bills and quick searches. He'd left it open earlier that day, still logged into his personal email account from checking something during breakfast. And in his rush, he hadn't signed out. I hesitated for a second, my fingers hovering over the keys, But the overconfidence he'd shown lately, acting like I was too beaten down to snoop, gave me the push I needed. I clicked into his inbox, searching for keywords like transfer and Linda, keeping an eye on the clock so I could close it all before he got back. That's when I hit a goldmine, an email thread from a few months ago between him and his mom, where he wrote, "I handled the latest withdrawal by signing the authorization form as Emily too. Didn't want to bother her with it. The bank accepted it no problem." My stomach twisted at the admission. Clear as day that he'd forged my consent on those forms to make the transfers look legit, even though the account was primarily his. I quickly forwarded the chain to my private email and deleted the sent copy, covering my tracks before logging out. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the blank screen for a moment, the tension building inside me as I realized this was solid evidence of embezzlement. Him admitting to falsifying my approval to divert our joint contributions without my real say. It wasn't some official bank document, but his own words in that email could prove he'd been manipulating things behind my back, especially tied to the Venmo patterns. I heard Mark's car pull into the driveway right then, so I shut the laptop and headed to the kitchen, pretending to load the dishwasher. He came in carrying a bag from the store, smiling like nothing was amiss. "Got some snacks for the kids' lunches. You okay? You look a little distracted." I forced a nod, keeping my voice even. "Yeah, just thinking about work tomorrow. How was your errand?" He set the bag down and grabbed a water from the fridge. "Fine, nothing exciting. Mom texted about some family stuff, said everything's smooth now that the account's locked down." His casual tone, like he believed I'd fully backed off, only fueled my resolve. He was getting sloppy, assuming victory, which let me gather more without them watching. The following morning, after dropping the kids at school and before my shift started, I used my phone to pull up public property records online, nothing fancy, just free county databases anyone could access. I searched for Linda's sister's name in Oakville, the town from that overheard call, and sure enough, there was a rental property listed under her, a modest house that had been leased for the past few years. The lease renewal dates lined up roughly with some of the transfer timings I'd noted from the Venmo receipt and old alerts. Not exact matches, but consistent enough to suggest the money was covering rent there, probably for the boy they were hiding. It wasn't ironclad, but it painted a picture of ongoing support, the funds flowing to that address instead of Linda's emergencies like they claimed. I saved screenshots of the records to my hidden folder, feeling the pieces connect. The forged consent email, the third-party transfers, now this property link, all without needing insider access. Sarah had warned me to keep it legal and slow, so I didn't dig deeper into private stuff, just stuck to what's public. That afternoon, Linda showed up at the house again, this time with a casserole dish, acting all helpful like she was the perfect mother-in-law. "I made extra for you all, figured with your shifts. Cooking's a hassle," she said, setting it on the counter with that smug smile, her guard down because she thought I'd stopped pushing back. I thanked her, pouring us both coffee, and decided to test the waters subtly, mentioning Oakville without making it obvious. "By the way, how's your sister holding up? I remember her living out in Oakville. Must be nice and quiet there." Linda paused mid-sip, her eyes flickering just a bit before she recovered. "Oh, she's managing. Why bring her up now?" I shrugged casually, stirring my coffee. "Mark mentioned some bills going that way a while back. Just curious if everything's okay with her place." She waved it off, but I caught the slight tension in her voice. "It's fine, dear. Rent and such add up, but we've got it covered. No need for you to worry your head about it." Her dismissal was telling, confirming the Oakville connection without her realizing she'd slipped, and it made me feel the balance shifting. I now had leverage she didn't know about. As we sat at the table, she kept talking, her overconfidence showing as she complained about family expenses without filtering herself. "The school's been a bit pricier lately, but Mark's handling the transfers smoothly now." I nodded along, pretending interest. "School? For who? Your sister's got kids." She caught herself, backtracking quickly. "Oh, just some community thing, nothing important." But the mention aligned with the patterns I'd seen. Transfers spiking around what could be tuition seasons, even if I couldn't see exact fees publicly. It was enough to solidify my suspicions, the evidence stacking up methodically. When Mark got home later, he joined us, hugging Linda and chatting about work. His demeanor relaxed like he owned the world. "Em's been great lately, Mom. No more questions about the money," he said, winking at me like it was a joke. I smiled back, playing the part. "Yeah, I've let it go. You know best." Inside, though, the tension coiled tighter. Their belief that I'd given up was letting them lower their guard, spilling details they wouldn't have before. That night, after Linda left and the kids were asleep, I reviewed everything in my head while Mark scrolled on his phone beside me in bed. The forged consent admission, the Venmo to the aunt, the Oakville rental records. It all pointed to the systematic theft for the boys' upkeep, the affair hidden in plain sight through these diversions. I even spotted one more thing earlier that day, a blurry photo attached to an old email in the I chain showing a kid who looked maybe 8 with Mark's eyes labeled "From Aunt's Place." It wasn't definitive, but it twisted the knife, confirming the child's existence without words. Mark turned off the light, murmuring, "Good night, babe. Things are finally calm." I echoed it back. But in the dark, I felt the power shift fully. I held the cards now. Real leverage built quietly, while they stayed blind to it. The next day, Linda texted Mark about another small transfer for the house, and he did it without a second thought, assuming I was none the wiser. But I was, and the balance had tipped. I just had to keep it hidden a little longer. With the evidence I'd gathered, the email where Mark admitted signing those forms as me, the Venmo transfers to the aunt, the Oakville rental records matching the patterns, Linda's casual mention of school costs and that blurry photo of the boy, I felt ready to make my first move. Something small and anonymous to rattle them without showing my cards. I decided to send a tip to the bank's fraud monitoring department through their online form, using a generic email I'd set up on my phone during a quiet moment at work. I kept it vague, just hinting at unusual activity on a specific account number with possible unauthorized approvals. No names or details that could trace back to me. It was a calculated risk, but banks take those tips seriously, and I knew it might trigger a routine review, enough to spook Linda and Mark into doubting each other. I hit submit during my lunch break the next day, my hands steady as I deleted the browser history, then headed back to my nursing duties like nothing had happened. That afternoon, I picked up the kids from school and stopped for smoothies on the way home, keeping the routine normal while my mind raced ahead to how this might play out. Mark texted that he'd be home on time for once, and when he walked in, he seemed in a good mood, tossing his keys on the counter and hugging the kids. We sat down for dinner, spaghetti I'd thrown together, and the conversation stayed light about their day at school and his latest client win. "Things are looking up at work," he said, twirling pasta on his fork. "Might even get a bonus soon." I nodded, smiling as I passed the garlic bread. "That's great. Maybe we can plan a little family trip." He agreed, but I watched for any sign of stress, knowing the tip might take a day or two to process. After the kids went to bed, we watched a show on the couch, his arm around me casually, and I leaned into it, playing the content wife while inside. The anticipation built like a slow burn. The next morning, it started. The bank's response came quicker than I'd expected. I was pouring cereal for the kids when Mark's phone rang, and he answered it in the kitchen, his voice shifting from casual to tense. "Yes, this is Mark. Wait, a fraud alert on the savings account. What kind of irregularity?" I kept my back to him, stirring my coffee, but I could hear the representative on the other end explaining something about flagged unusual transfers and a request for verification of recent approvals. Routine review? Triggered by what? Anonymous report? "Okay, I'll provide the docs. But this is unexpected." He hung up, rubbing his forehead as he sat at the table. "That was the bank, some fraud monitoring thing. They're asking for explanations on the withdrawals to Mom's account, saying it looks off." The kids were too busy eating to notice, but I turned around, feigning concern. "Off how? Is everything okay?" He sighed, grabbing his phone to text Linda. "Probably nothing, just a standard check from unusual patterns. But Mom's going to flip." Sure enough, Linda called him back within minutes, her voice loud enough through the speaker that I caught snippets as I cleared the bowls. "Mark, what did you do?" The bank emailed me too, a verification request for the recipient side, saying possible unauthorized activity. If they dig, they'll see the patterns to Oakville. He stepped into the living room for privacy, but the door was open, and I lingered nearby, wiping the counter slowly. "Mom, calm down, it's routine," they said. Maybe the transfers were too frequent, triggered an auto alert. Who would report it anyway? Linda's tone sharpened. "You tell me. Maybe one of your accountant buddies noticed something at work? Or that aunt. She's been complaining about the extra costs lately." Mark huffed back. "The aunt? She's family. Why would she? And my work's separate. No one knows about the boy. This is probably your fault for pushing so many transfers at once." Their argument escalated, voices rising as they blamed each other for carelessness, the distrust cracking open without a hint toward me. I walked into the living room then, carrying fresh coffee as an excuse, and they quieted down quickly. "Heard the phone bad news?" I asked innocently, handing Mark the mug. He took it, forcing a smile. "Just bank stuff, Em. Nothing big. They want some paperwork to confirm the transfers were legit." Linda, who'd switched to speaker, chimed in from the phone. "Yes, dear, routine nonsense. Mark'll handle it." But her voice had an edge, like she was holding back panic, and I nodded sympathetically. "Sounds annoying. If you need help gathering docs, let me know." Mark waved it off. "I've got it. Probably just a glitch from the password changes." After the call ended, he paced a bit, muttering about unnecessary stress. While I got the kids ready for school, feeling the psychological hit land perfectly, this vague alert had scared Linda into overreacting, making her question if the aunt or someone else had leaked, and Mark's irritation showed he was starting to doubt her pushiness. Later that day, while I was at the hospital on break, Mark texted an update. "Bank wants scanned approvals by end of week. Mom's insisting we meet to go over everything." I replied supportively, "Okay, hope it clears up fast." But when Linda came over that evening, unannounced as usual, the tension was thick. She hugged the kids but shot Mark a look as they stepped into the office to talk privately. I stayed in the kitchen, prepping snacks, but their voices carried through the thin door. "This alert isn't random, Mark. Someone must have tipped them about the forgeries." Linda whispered harshly. "Forgeries? You mean the ones you suggested I do to speed things up?" He shot back. "Don't pin this on me. It's your secret keeping us in this mess," she scoffed. "My secret? You're the one who had the affair and left me to raise the boy. If this exposes everything, we'll both lose." Their back and forth planted more seeds of division, each accusing the other of slips that could have triggered the review, without once glancing my way. As they emerged, Linda pasted on a smile for me. "Just sorting some paperwork, Emily. Nothing to fret about." I returned the smile, offering her tea. "No problem, take your time." Mark nodded, but his eyes lingered on Linda with a hint of suspicion, the overconfidence from before cracking under the pressure. That night, as we lay in bed, he turned to me. "Mom's really worked up about this bank thing. Thinks it's targeted," I murmured sleepily. "Weird, maybe just bad luck." He agreed, but I could tell the distrust was festering, setting them up to lash out while I stayed invisible, waiting for their next move. The counterblow had worked, testing their alliance without exposing me, and now the real reversal was coming. The bank's fraud alert had them rattled, and I could feel the shift in the air at home, like a storm building, even though they still didn't suspect me. Mark spent the next evening in the office after dinner, his door closed while he made calls, and I heard him talking low to Linda over the phone about cleaning up loose ends. I kept busy with the kids' bedtime routine, reading them stories and tucking them in, but my ears stayed tuned to his voice, catching fragments like "shred the old statements" and "make sure nothing's left in emails." Indeed, when he came out, he looked worn out, rubbing his temples as he sat on the couch next to me. "That bank thing's a pain. They want all the approval docs scanned by Friday." I nodded sympathetically, flipping through a magazine. "Sounds frustrating." "Anything I can do?" He shook his head, leaning back. "Nah, Mom and I got it. Just some old paperwork to sort." The next morning, I dropped the kids at school and headed to my shift at the hospital. But on the way, my phone buzzed with a text from our mutual friend Karen, someone we'd known since college. "Hey, Em, everything okay? Mark mentioned you're going through a rough patch. Said you're stressed, and it's causing some family tension. Need to talk?" I stared at the screen while at a red light, my grip tightening on the wheel as I realized they were starting to spread rumors, painting me as unstable to isolate me further from our social circle. I texted back quickly. "I'm fine, thanks, just busy with work. What did he say exactly?" Karen replied almost immediately. "Just that you're questioning things a lot and it's straining everyone. He seemed worried about you." Worried? More like trying to discredit me in case I spoke up. I pulled into the hospital parking lot feeling the sabotage hit, but I kept my cool, focusing on my patients to push through the day. When I got home that afternoon, Linda was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with Mark, papers spread out in front of them. She looked up as I walked in, her expression tight like she was holding back anger. "Emily, good you're home. We need to talk." Mark nodded, stacking some documents quickly, but I caught a glimpse of bank statements before he covered them. "What's going on?" I asked, setting down my bag and pouring myself water. Linda leaned forward, her voice sharp. "This bank alert, it's got us thinking." Someone's stirring trouble, and if you keep pushing about the money, we'll have to cut you off completely from the family finances. No more access. No more say. I set the glass down carefully, meeting her eyes. Pushing. I haven't said anything lately. Mark jumped in, his tone defensive. Come on, Em, you've been on edge. And now this alert, coincidence? We're just protecting the family. I felt the threat land hard, them escalating to full isolation, but I played along, shrugging. If that's what you think is best, fine, I don't want trouble. Linda smirked a little, gathering the papers. Good, and we've shredded the old stuff just in case. She held up a bag of confetti-like scraps, waving it like a trophy. No trails left for anyone to follow. Mark nodded, stuffing the bag into his briefcase. Yeah, deleted some emails too, better safe. They were destroying evidence right in front of me, thinking it would bury everything. And it made my stomach churn, but I had my digital copies saved securely in my hidden folder, so their sabotage didn't touch my leverage. Still, the way they teamed up, threatening to cut me off, heightened the tension, making it feel like I was teetering on the edge again. That evening, more texts came in from our neighbor Sue and even my cousin Amy, both asking if I was doing all right after hearing from Mark or Linda that I was unstable and causing discord in the family. Sue's message read, Linda stopped by today, said you're paranoid about money and it's hurting Mark. Let me know if you need anything. I sat on the bed after the kids were asleep, scrolling through them. The social isolation hitting like a wave, friends pulling away based on their whispers. Mark came in then, changing for bed. You see those messages? People are worried about you, Em. I looked up, keeping my voice steady. Worried or just hearing rumors? He sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. It's not rumors, it's the truth. You've been acting off, questioning everything. Mom and I just want what's best for the family, including you. His words twisted the knife, making me the problem while they hid the real betrayal. And I felt the verge of losing it all again, my support network crumbling under their sabotage. I lay awake that night as Mark snored, staring at the ceiling, the threats echoing in my head. Cut off completely. No more say. Shredded evidence. It seemed like they were closing in, intensifying everything to silence me for good. But I reminded myself of the copies I had, the emails and records safe on my phone and in my separate account. The next day, Linda called while I was at work, her voice cold over the speaker. Emily, just a heads up, we're changing more passwords and removing your name from joint stuff. If you push back, it'll get worse. I paused in the break room, my coffee going cold. Worse how? She laughed shortly. You'll see. Friends, family, maybe even your job if rumors spread there. Stay in your lane. The call ended, and I felt the pressure mount. Their escalation making it look like I was about to break, but it only sharpened my focus, the tension coiling tighter as I planned my next step. When I got home, Mark was waiting in the living room, arms crossed. Mom told you about the changes? It's for your own good. You're too stressed to handle finances right now. I nodded slowly, sitting down. Yeah, she did. And the rumors to friends? He avoided my eyes. Just venting. People understand family drama. But as he walked away to the office, I overheard him on the phone with Linda again. Think she'll back off now? The shreds and threats should do it. Linda replied, if not, we ramp it up, make sure she's isolated. Their words hung heavy, the sabotage peaking, and for a moment, it felt like I was losing ground fast, on the verge of everything collapsing again. Their threats and the rumors they'd spread had me feeling cornered again, like the walls were closing in tighter than ever. But I had my evidence locked away in that hidden folder on my phone and laptop, digital copies of the bank statements showing the withdrawals, Mark's email admitting he'd signed those forms as me, the Venmo transfers routed to the aunt in Oakville, the public rental records lining up with the payments, Linda's slip about the school costs, and that blurry photo of the boy who looked just like Mark. It was all solid, undeniable proof of the embezzlement, the affair, and the secret child they'd been hiding while stealing from our family's future. I knew it was time to take full control, so during my lunch break at the hospital the next day, I called Sarah from a quiet corner in the staff room. Hey, I think I'm ready to move, I told her, my voice low but steady. I've got everything, the emails, the records, even that photo. Can you provide a signed declaration about what you saw in the documents I shared? Sarah paused, then said firmly, Absolutely, Em. I'll write it up today, detailing that you provided me with the bank statements, receipts, and emails, and describing how the patterns could be consistent with financial concealment based on what I observed. I'll make it clear I didn't access any bank systems or obtain internal data. I only analyzed what you gave me. I emailed her the files right then using my secure account, and she got back to me by the end of my shift with the signed declaration attached. This outlines the facts as I saw them, she texted. No conclusions on guilt, just observations on the routing and frequency. I saved it with the rest, feeling the power shift completely as I drove home. My mind racing through the plan. Arrange a family meeting. Invite extended relatives like Mark's cousins and my own sister for witnesses. And have a lawyer there to lay it all out publicly. No more hiding in the shadows. This would be the setup for the big reveal, where the truth couldn't be denied or shredded away. When I got home, the kids were playing in the yard, and Mark was in the kitchen making sandwiches. "Hey babe, good day?" he asked, handing me one like everything was normal. "Yeah, busy but good," I replied, taking a bite and keeping my tone light. "Actually, I was thinking we should have a family dinner soon. Invite everyone over. Your cousins, my sister, even Linda's brother if he's around. It's been too long." Mark raised an eyebrow, setting down his knife. "A family meeting? Why now? Things are finally calming down." I shrugged casually, leaning against the counter. "Just feels right. With all the stress lately, maybe clearing the air would help. We can talk about the finances openly, get everyone on the same page." He hesitated but agreed reluctantly. "Fine, if you think it'll help. Set it for this weekend, Saturday night." I smiled, pulling out my phone to start texting relatives. "Great, I'll make it happen." Inside, though, I knew why he was going along with it. He thought this was his chance to frame me as unstable in front of the family, building on those rumors he'd planted, making me look paranoid so no one would believe me if I spoke up. They think this is their stage. That's why they agreed. Later that night, when Mark was in the shower, I called a family lawyer I'd researched, one specializing in marital assets and fraud, and booked her for the evening. "I need you present for a confrontation," I explained over the phone. "I've got evidence of embezzlement and forgery. Can you review it beforehand? And I have a signed declaration from a friend who looked at the documents." She agreed, her voice professional. "Send it over securely, and I'll be there to guide the discussion legally. As for the declaration, I'll review it and decide if formal notarization or a subpoena is needed after. We won't rush that today." The next day, I forwarded the files to the lawyer, Melissa, and she got back to me quickly. "This is strong, Emily. The forged consents alone could lead to charges, and the patterns scream systematic theft. I'll prepare a summary to present if needed." I thanked her, feeling the anticipation build as I confirmed the invites with everyone. Mark's 2 cousins, my sister, Linda's brother, even a couple of close family friends to make it feel natural. "Looking forward to catching up," my sister texted back. "Heard things have been tense, hope it's okay," I replied vaguely. "It will be big family talk planned." Mark noticed the buzz of responses on my phone that evening as we sat on the couch. "Who's all coming?" he asked, scrolling through his own messages. "The usual suspects, your cousins, my sis, Uncle Joe from Linda's side. Should be about 10 of us." He nodded, but I saw a flicker of unease. "Mom's okay with this?" I smiled. I texted her. She said yes, as long as it's casual. In reality, Linda had replied warily, "What's this about?" Mark mentioned finances. Better not be drama. I'd assured her it was just dinner, but she was coming, hook set. She probably thought she could control the story there, crush any suspicion in front of the family since she believed I had no real evidence left after their shredding. That night, after the kids were asleep, I reviewed everything one last time in the office, printing extra copies of the key evidence just in case, and stashing them in my bag. Mark came in, leaning on the doorframe. "You're up late, what's that?" I closed the laptop quickly, but not suspiciously. "Just work notes. Excited for Saturday?" He chuckled, but it sounded forced. "Yeah, sure. Mom thinks it's a good idea to clear the air, too." I bet she did. Probably planning to spin more rumors or threats in front of everyone to keep me in line. But with Melissa the lawyer showing up, introduced as a family advisor and friend of a friend, and the evidence ready, I was the one in control, setting up the climax where their lies would crumble publicly. The next morning, Linda stopped by unexpectedly, carrying a pie like it was a peace offering. "For the dinner," she said, setting it down. "Mark told me about it. Smart move, Emily. We can all talk and put this behind us." I took the pie, nodding. "Exactly. Full family there, no secrets." She eyed me for a second, then smiled thinly. "No secrets indeed. I'll bring some old photos to share, remind everyone of the good times." Her words felt like a subtle jab, but I let it slide. Sounds perfect. As she left, I texted Melissa the final details. Saturday at 6 p.m., my house. Evidence packet ready, signed declaration from my friend included. She confirmed, I'll arrive a bit early to prep with you. This will be airtight. The setup was locked in, the anticipation holding like a breath before the storm, as I prepared to expose the betrayal once and for all in front of everyone who mattered. Mark hugged me that night in bed. This dinner might fix things, he said softly. Love you. I echoed it back, but inside I knew it would fix nothing for them. It would end their game. Saturday evening arrived and the house was buzzing with the arrivals. Mark's cousins pulling up in their SUV, my sister hugging me at the door, Linda's brother, Uncle Joe, clapping Mark on the back, and a couple of family friends filling out the group, all chatting about traffic and weather like it was just a casual dinner. I set out the appetizers on the table, smiling as everyone settled in the living room. The smell of roast chicken from the oven mixing with the tension I could feel building inside me. Melissa had arrived early, introduced as a family advisor and friend of a friend, sitting quietly in the corner with her briefcase, reviewing notes while blending in. Thanks for coming, everyone, I said, clinking a glass to get their attention once we were all seated around the dining table. It's been too long, and with some family stresses lately, I thought we'd clear the air tonight. Mark nodded from across the table, glancing at Linda beside him, both looking smug like they had this under control. Linda leaned forward first, her fork poised over her salad, her voice sweet but sharp. Yes, dear, it's good we're all here. Emily's been a bit on edge with the finances, questioning things that are just family help. Mark and I have handled it, but if anyone's worried, we're happy to explain. My sister raised an eyebrow, looking at me. Worried? What's going on, Em? I took a breath, keeping my hand steady under the table, and nodded to Melissa. Actually, that's why Melissa's here. She's a family law advisor. I've asked her to help lay out some facts tonight. Mark's face tightened, setting down his water glass. An advisor? What is this, some ambush? Linda laughed lightly, but it sounded forced. Come on, Emily, no need for outsiders. We're family. Let's keep it that way. Uncle Joe shifted in his seat. Hold on, what's the issue here? Mark, you said it was just a casual dinner. Melissa stood up then, opening her briefcase and pulling out the printed evidence packets, one for each person at the table. I'm here at Emily's request to present some documents that show irregularities in the family. Savings account. Please take a look. She handed them around, and I watched as eyes widened. Mark's cousins flipping through the bank statements first, my sister scanning the Venmo receipts. These show over $25,000 withdrawn without Emily's real approval, Melissa continued calmly. And this email from Mark admits to signing authorization forms in her name. Mark snatched the packet from his cousin, his face paling as he read his own words. What the hell, Em? Where did you get this? Linda grabbed hers, her hands shaking slightly. This is private. How dare you dig through our emails? My sister looked up at me, shocked. Em, is this true? They've been stealing from you? I stood up, my voice steady, even though my heart pounded. Yes, it's true. For months, Mark and Linda have been draining our joint savings, money I earned from overtime shifts, from sacrificing for our kids, to support Mark's secret child from an affair years ago, the boys being raised by Linda and her sister in Oakville, with our funds paying for the rent, school, everything. Gasps went around the table, Mark's cousin muttering, "No way," Uncle Joe staring at Linda. A secret child? Linda, is this real? Linda's face flushed red, slamming the packet down. This is lies. Emily's unstable. She's been paranoid, spreading rumors herself. Mark jumped in, his voice rising. Em, you can't do this, exposing family like this. It's not what it looks like. The money was for Mom's emergencies. Melissa held up a hand. Actually, the patterns match exactly. Transfers to the aunt's account, rental records in Oakville, even a photo of the boy that resembles Mark. And Sarah, a banking compliance expert, provided a signed declaration observing that the routing and frequency could be consistent with concealment based solely on the documents Emily shared, no internal data accessed. The room erupted then, my sister turning to Mark. You had an affair and hit a kid? That's betrayal on another level. Mark's cousin shook his head. Dude, signing as her? That's grounds for fraud. We could back Emily if she pursues this. Uncle Joe looked at Linda, disappointed. Sis, if this is true, you've lost my respect. Hiding a grandson like that, using their money? Melissa stepped in again, addressing the group. Legally, this provides a basis for fraud and forgery claims and grounds to pursue restitution of the funds. We'll be filing for temporary financial restraining orders Monday to preserve assets and requesting the bank to flag or freeze the account pending investigation. Mark slumped in his chair, covering his face. Em, please don't do this. I was guilty, yeah, but Mom pushed me to keep it secret. We can work it out privately. Linda turned on him then, her voice shrill. Pushed you? This is your fault. The affair was yours. I just helped raise the boy because you couldn't man up. The cousins exchanged looks, one saying, "This is messed up, we're out if it's fraud." My sister hugged me from the side. You've been through hell, I'm with you. I nodded, turning back to Mark and Linda. It's over. You'll repay every cent, over $25,000, through whatever legal means we pursue. And Mark, expect divorce papers. I'll seek a custody arrangement prioritizing the children's stability and safety. Melissa nodded. We'll start the process Monday. No miracles overnight. But the evidence is strong for initial filings. Linda burst into tears, grabbing her purse. You'll regret this, Emily. You've destroyed our family. She stormed out, Uncle Joe following to drive her home, shaking his head. Mark stayed seated, defeated, as the others murmured support for me. I never meant for it to go this far, he whispered. The boy, he's innocent. I leaned in close. Then be a real father without stealing from ours. But we're done. As everyone left, hugging me and promising to testify if needed, Melissa packed up. We'll file for those temporary orders first thing Monday. Change your direct deposit tonight to your separate account for the next paycheck, and we'll work on getting the savings flagged. My sister stayed to help clean, squeezing my hand. Proud of you, sis. New start now. I nodded, watching Mark slink upstairs alone, his reputation as the family man shattered, facing the start of legal fallout for the fraud and embezzlement. Linda lost her grip on us, her meddling exposed. No more influence or stolen funds. That night, I logged into my payroll portal and switched my direct deposit to the separate account I'd opened, securing my earnings moving forward while the lawyer handled the rest. Looking at our kids sleeping, I knew I'd stopped the cycle, beginning a new life with dignity. A sharp lesson learned: never trust blindly, especially family. Have you ever felt that the person who hurt you the most is the one you trusted the most? If you've ever experienced being doubted, blamed, or hurt without being able to speak out, leave a "I" comment or briefly tell your story. No one is judging you here. We're just reminding each other of one thing. The truth may come late, but it always finds a way to be revealed. And if you want more stories like this about justice turning around, remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. On screen right now, you'll see 2 new stories I think you'll really enjoy. There are many more waiting for you on the channel, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss one. See you in the next story. Until then, take care of yourself and the people you love. With all my love and respect.